Welcome to our end of the month clarity webinar. We are going to talk all things social media. And in this couple minutes leading up to the live, 15 minutes or so with any potential questions that may come in, we thought it would be fun to talk about some of the favorite things we've found on social media. One of my favorites is behind me right here. I've connected with some artists and was able to purchase some art that I even have in the office. And I've got one here at my home office as well. And I never thought that would happen. I just didn't, I've gone to so many little art festivals in Winter Park with my aunt and the Altamont Springs Art Festival. And there's one right here from that. And I thought that was the way, right? But yet by using Twitter, which really was surprising to me that it was that, I found a cool artist, someone that I was able to support, and I never would have found her otherwise. She's from Canada.
Well, what drew you into her art?
Oh my God. I think it was really the colors. The colors stood out so immediately, like you could see, right? She has a very unique style of how she does the faces, and it's pen work that she then overlays with sometimes other mediums. So sometimes it's like she'll do paper over it. Other times it's just digital. So I think it's just so cool. And like the one at the office that literally is like, you could probably like see it if you look over toward my office. She did that one. That's all black and white pen work. Whereas this one that's behind me, what I think is so cool is it's using, you're a wizard, so you'll get this, but like the iPad Pro kind of thing with all the pencil, the pen on there, and it can do, it can do crazy things that again allows artists to do, I think, some of the coolest stuff. And I don't know, I didn't ever expect that to be a part of my Twitter journey, right? And sure. Any things you found that either surprised you or pleasantly surprised you?
No, I'll mention, what I do enjoy sometimes a little bit about some of the social sides is a good laugh. I enjoy a good meme, right? Isn't it sometimes just, after a football game or after just like, having a good day or bad day, and there's just a funny meme that just you're like, yep, that speaks to me. But they just come out of nowhere, and so I'll say that's kind of the one little like gem of moments where I'm like, thanks social media, thanks.
Do you like the ones? Do you have like a specific meme that you like to see reiterated? Because that's the beauty of memes, right? You'll see the same one but used a lot of different ways. I'll give you an example. And again, I know you know this, and whoever may watch this or be listening in, I got into the crypto stuff. But the "This is fine" meme, which is a cartoon character who's sitting at a table, but everything's on fire, and it says "This is fine." There are different versions of that with different cartoon characters and different things. I love them all.
There's a dumpster fire one I was thinking of, and then it's the everything's okay. Except, and there's the dumpster fire type of thing. Yeah, I like that. The Kermit the Frog one with the tea,
sipping the tea,
spilling the tea. I enjoy that. I had for a while looked for those. I haven't seen one of those in a while, but yeah.
Who's big on them? And surprisingly, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, is a meme shiller. He is a purveyor of memes. That's primarily what he's putting out.
Does he generate them, or does he?
They're not retweets, right? So they're coming from his account. I'm not sure if he's just finding them somewhere. They're not retweets. They're like his post is a meme, and he is very prolific with it. He likes to meme. He believes that memes are again a source of, I don't know, either movement or how to. Which is true, I guess. It moves people because it takes a big idea in many cases and makes it easier to digest.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't realize he was so big into them, but
yeah, it's shocking and surprising to me. But let's get into it. So let's kind of start our little journey here. Again, for those of you watching live, you can ask any questions in the chat. For everybody else, you'll get this video as a link, right? And we are just going to talk about social media, right? I think the biggest thing for us is trying to help reduce the intimidation factor of social media. And that's really what we want to accomplish today with some strategies and breaking through some of the platforms. So this wasn't about like talking about a brand new platform, for example, Hi-Ho, which is a new platform of video, real-time question and answers, right? This wasn't about trying to encourage you to necessarily get on there, but give you a broader spectrum of how you could really kind of break through the, oh my God, there's so many different platforms. What could I do? So here's our firm belief. Social media, unfortunately for many, is here to stay. It has become a part of everything from news and communication to marketing. And as a result, you may want to consider for your business potentially just securing some of those accounts, whether or not you're even going to actually use the platform. What I mean by that is the TikTok, for example, maybe you're never going to TikTok, but in 3 years, they've changed their platform a lot and it is much more reasonable for your business. You would have really wanted to have and your business name, wouldn't you? So it's something to consider in the planning that doesn't require you to actually do anything yet. But our first big thing we want to get across is all these platforms that, again, may be intimidating or seem like I don't need that. That might be right now. What Facebook was 10 years ago and what they are now is vastly different. You could look back into articles about Facebook. The functionality they had wasn't even close to what it is now. They didn't have the ad network 10 years ago, right? I mean, it was so different. So the first big piece of today is making sure that while you may not even have to make a piece of content, you may not have to do anything. Grab that handle, and handle means username, right? David, I mean, how important would you say? And it's not even how important, because it's like, we know it's important, but like that forethought and what's the worst case scenario? They just don't use it.
Right. Sign up for an account. Right. This is like the first step, right? It's like, oh, I heard about Hi-Ho or Clubhouse or something like that, right? That you sign up for the account, stake your username when possible, or figure out what it's going to take. But yeah, jump in there, kind of get comfortable in terms of literally the first step of just setting it up and just holding it. Assuming at this point you've heard of it, right? You don't need to necessarily go down a rabbit hole of the 100 social networks you haven't heard of yet, but maybe ones that you're beginning to start hearing more and more people talk about, right? You'd be like, absolutely. Oh, cool, I heard 2 people talk about that. Maybe I should
and if it's
start the account step. That's all.
If it never goes past that, that's okay. But you'd be setting yourself up for success. So again, number one thing, if you're hearing about a platform, you're reading articles about a platform, just get a username on it. Doesn't mean you have to do anything. Now, that is so that if something does happen, like the 10 years ago Facebook to now, you aren't left out of the game or doing a version of your business name or something that you have to do. This happened 25 years ago with website URLs, where people didn't think they ever wanted a website, so they never bought the URL. And now you see URLs that have to be longer than they would need to be because it was already taken. And that is a thing. That's a real thing. All these platforms, there's only a finite amount of those handles. So, and again, when I use handle, that's just the term in the space, that's the username. But the big number 2 for today, is we wanted to give you a strategy for how you could figure out whether or not the platform is even good for you. And the way to do that is to use a mixture of time blocking. So grab your calendar, put a 2-hour time block where you're going to use that platform as a user, not as a content creator, not as somebody who's posting, but someone who's... Go ahead.
Right. Don't think about what you're going to get out of it. Think of it, what others are getting out of it.
Big time. So in this 2-hour time block, and that's the craziest thing, that like, even if there were 10 new platforms, to grow your business 2 years from now, do you have 20 hours? Of course you do, if you really thought of it that way. But this is 2-hour increments. And why am I saying 2 hours instead of 20 minutes? Well, 20 minutes, you may not actually be able to experience what their algorithm does. You may not be able to experience how people communicate on a platform. In 2 hours, really putting 2 hours, like this is homework. This is homework if you're ever interested in looking at social as a really kind of growth opportunity for your business. You would spend a 2-hour block scrolling through. Now that I'm saying scroll because like on Instagram, it would be scroll, TikTok would be scroll, Clubhouse as an example wouldn't be scrolling. You'd be scrolling through rooms, but you might be listening in because Clubhouse is an audio platform and you can listen into some live conversations. And again, we are not saying you have to actively raise your hand in those and do that. We're not saying you have to comment or like anything. However, by you scrolling through, by you digesting a couple of hours worth of content on a platform, you will start to see some of how it works. And boy, is that the key, because not every platform is right for every business. That's the thing. You don't need them all necessarily. In fact, theoretically, it might even be better if you found the right one that had an audience for you and you just went all in on it. We are not saying you need 45 social accounts, but what we are saying is, how are you going to know which one could work best for you if you don't spend just a little bit of time figuring out how people engage on that platform and what that fit is? So I'll give an example of TikTok, which is new-ish, but really isn't. It's been around for now. We're coming up on the 4th year. It had a different name in 2018 and 2019. It switched to TikTok. For a good, what would you say, maybe 20 months, David, people were saying, oh, that's that app that people dance. People do dances, kids dance. Well, and that might have been true for a time, but you wouldn't see Coca-Cola put their money into it. You wouldn't see the NFL put their money into it. These are major marketers if it wasn't more than that at this point. Again, I'll go back to Facebook many, many years ago was nothing more than poking people and sending messages. They didn't even have a news feed originally. And now they have the most robust platform that does all these things and will soon have more games and integrations to keep you on that platform. So spend that time through TikTok, and you'll notice as you scroll, one of the other cool features of blocking out that 2 hours I mentioned, you will start to see how that algorithm works. Spend that 2 hours on Twitter scrolling. You will see how they're determining. You'll notice some things. You'll be like, wow, I'm getting a lot of things that are funny, or I'm getting a lot of memes, or I'm getting a lot of stuff that had a lot of engagement on it. Or conversely, I'm getting stuff that doesn't. You go to a topic and you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of ways to play that. But the only way for you to figure it out is for you to spend the time.
Right. And what type of content is being created, right? You know, is it like, again, on Clubhouse, right? Is it that you're getting into seeing topics that you are more of your hobbies? Is it more of the business side of things? Is there a way to even combine the two? And then, you know, what's being posted, and then how are people commenting, right? And maybe I see a lot or know a lot on TikTok. There's a lot of humorous replies and things like that, but there's not like people aren't like saying like, oh, you know, follow me or visit me, or there's no like self-promotion going on in the same way that I think even on like Facebook, you sometimes see in some of the other platforms. So it's a different even kind of communication style, little blurbs, right? When even in Facebook, there's 2 or 3 sentences. So it's even a different way to comment than maybe even what you're used to seeing, when maybe that could be a lot easier for you to interact with than having to say, I have to sit down, I have to write out 2 complete sentences so I look coherent. It doesn't really matter so much in TikTok. You get away with a little blurb, and people are you know, they trust that.
Absolutely. So step 1, secure those usernames on new and popular platforms. Step 2, time block out 2 hours that you could at least, because again, it's okay if that 2 hours ends up by the end of it, if you're like, not for me, not going to work, don't need it. You will have known you at least put the time in to determine that there's probably not a great fit for where you're at. Now, if you have any questions, of course, if you're like, you spend that 2 hours and you're not for sure it's a no, shoot us an email, right? We'll look at some content with you. We'll guide you around, whether, again, you're a client of ours or not. But step 3 is a big key here. And for many of you, maybe some of you have B2C, your business to consumer, and you're looking for people, just regular Joes, right? Regular Joes and Janes, and others are B2B. So David, speak to how again, important and interesting things can get from a B2B perspective. That's what, again, people have been asking us, not just today, but leading up to multiple of these webinars. There's been a lot of questions that have come up but I'm a business that communicates with other businesses. How?
Right. And that's where figuring out what platform has a B2B option, right? Obviously LinkedIn, but like Clubhouse is one, you know, example being probably Snapchat is not. That's probably, you know, it's for the younger crowd who probably are not business owners. So it doesn't necessarily make sense. I mean, in theory, Facebook has a B2B, they just you're not going to have much visibility, but like TikTok has some opportunities to trend. They want to show up. They want to benefit B2B. There's small business tips. There's whether it's financial or taxes or some of these other things. And again, some of the algorithms will show you other things, but there might be a lot of content that can talk to the B2B side of things. It might be you supporting a person who is also a business owner. So there could be a wider gap there in terms of what you're filling in. But again, figuring out if that platform has that, right? Is there business owners on it? Is there like-minded people? Or is it that maybe you're trying to reach as a B2B company, somebody that just, is an engineer or a marketing person or a salesperson for that company? Could you get in front of that person by just being, again, by showing up in their feed, and then your business and stuff is there, right? You need to necessarily speak to the business owner. Could you speak with one of the team members? And that could be a platform that you can find them on. So that's in our option there.
These platforms have a vested interest in keeping people on them, right? That's typically what their business model or how they make revenue kind of exists, through ad kind of revenue that way. And even TikTok's like that. Twitter's like that. You'll see promoted posts. So they natively want to engage with business. So keep that in mind, because that's where David's going with that while LinkedIn, again, is an obvious, and boy, do we feel strongly that you should have that, be able to use that. They've been adding features. They've been adding live video features. They've been adding kind of like writing features that allow you to take your content from your site, put it there, and really find new people that way. LinkedIn is one of the few that still actually your posts can go to strangers. They don't have to like you to see it. Just keep that in mind, that LinkedIn has that power. But again, all of the platforms really want businesses. That's who would typically advertise, right? That's really where the money comes from. So whether you think, oh, but I sell t-shirts, so I'm only going to go to people, that makes sense. Or I'm in, legal services or something like that. How would that, I only work for lawyers, for example. Well, like David was saying, they're on those platforms. And that's one of the ways to expose yourself to the branding of what you want to be. Let's say you do, I'm trying to think of an example of someone who would work with lawyer. If you're a researcher or you're an investigator or something like that, somebody that would be tangential to a lawyer, but people off the street don't hire you. Well, how else are you going to get in front of them if you're not joining Facebook groups, right? Maybe you're in Twitter conversations that they're having. You're commenting on their TikToks. How else would you get in the room, so to speak?
Right. But and that's where, though, being involved in some of those platforms, or seeing how they are, seeing what's being posted and what's being done. Also, a lot of them have a search function. So in some way, begin to start searching for your business category, for what you do or for what you're trying to reach, or use maybe your Facebook or your YouTube or another platform that you've been active on, right, to use some of that knowledge to now start finding similar categories or similar things, or maybe you like memes, or maybe you like kind of feel good inspiration, right? See if that's on there, and then how can you interact with it the same way that you're interacting with it on the platforms that you already like. Or is it just, it's not there, right? Like an audio only platform might not have exactly that, but it's like, is there a version of that? Or is it that I'm not really into audio that much, or I don't have time to listen or make conversation. So it's like, that's not really my place. So it's figuring out too what you can fit within your business.
Absolutely. And again, we're doing our best to keep these short and sweet so you can watch them in real time, or when you get the link, you can kind of zip through it. And our big takeaways today is, number one, score the usernames on these platforms. Get that for your business, even if you're not going to use it. Number two, spend 2 hours, time block it on your calendar, digesting content as a user on whatever platform. And then that kind of third piece of the puzzle is figure out, working with yourself, you're thinking, or maybe you're sending us an email, because we're always here to help, where the fit is for you in terms of like your end consumer. Because then once you've gotten your handle, that, okay, there's a platform that is a fit for me based on what you digest in those 2 hours. It is then about creating a strategy around how you're going to use it. So that's kind of the big 3 steps that we wanted to give people to kind of wrap up this just top view of social media, but the goal being you don't have to be intimidated every time more platforms come out, because boy, they will. There's going to be more of them. If you just take them as when they reach a point that you're hearing about it enough, or maybe even right before that, you got your username, you spent 2 hours as a user, you didn't make any content, you just digested it. And then if you decided it made sense, you found your positioning on the platform.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring?
No, I was going to say also too, when you're in that kind of digestion stage, right? Look at the users who are using it and compare that to your sweet spot client, to that person that you'd be talking to. Are they there? Could they be there? In another year, will they be there? Right? Think about that side of it, because that's how you'll quickly know if you're a good fit. But you can't, I feel like if you're not involved in the space or in the social network, you're gonna not know if that's a conversation that you can be in, or is that comfortable. Because
it's worth
again,
knowing.
you could search what is TikTok and you'll see people talking about how it's all for kids, but we're quickly realizing that there's a lot of 30, 40, 50 somethings that are now using it. So an article is probably not going to actually show you that. And even like an example, like with algorithms and things, you actually might not see any of the kid stuff. You actually might only see some of the adult stuff, because that's what they're going to try to put you through. So
well, and you've heard people say it, you got to get your hands dirty, right? Sometimes. And the best part here is it is not literal at all. It's literally finger swipes or kind of clicking through on your computer. The best thing you could do for yourself is cross off ones off your list by spending that time. And if you never spend the time, you're crossing it off prematurely, missing out on the potential big next thing. If you're looking to grow, of course, I probably should have started that from the beginning, but if you got all the way through to here, if it's not interesting to you to grow to new people, I'll give an example. Like maybe you're you're about to retire. You're 2.5 years away from retiring. You're not selling your business. Maybe you don't need to worry about the new platform, for example. But most businesses that are at least in a growth trajectory or have some sort of runway, unfortunately, these websites, these platforms are becoming the attention economy, where the attention is. And we certainly just wanted to let you know that there's a way to digest it, to cut it down, make it smaller, bite size, and make it so that you don't have to think you got to be everywhere, because you don't. And again, we thank you guys for watching. Next month, we're going to talk all about stock photo, how stock photos can be amazing and benefits of using them, the right place to use them, and then other places where we wouldn't recommend it, and why sometimes that organic look or pictures of you might actually matter. But there is a great place for them, and we'll talk all about it next month. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you again soon.